Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Cook, Deputy Mayor of Freehold Township, and on behalf of Mayor Anthony Amiano and committee people Barbara McMorrow, Lester Preston, and Dave Salkin, I'm here tonight to sit down with Kevin Sweetnam, Scoutmaster of Troop 155 of Freehold Township, and we're going to just talk about Boy Scouts. I was just telling Kevin, in my world, when I was a younger parent, my three sons, we were running around the county at sports fields and athletic events and school stuff, and you don't hear or notice a scout, and you don't notice some of the things they do in our community. And I invited Kevin here. It took us a month and a half to nail this date down, but I invited Kevin here to tell us about the Scouts. So Kevin, it's all yours. Tell us about Troop 155.
Thank you for having us. So Troop 155 is, we have about 55 scouts ranging from the ages of our grades of 5th grade all the way on to seniors in high school. So anywhere from 10, 11, all the way up to 18. We meet once a week. Have a meeting over at West Freehold School.
Okay.
And one weekend a month we have an outdoor activity, camp out. And then the rest of the year we have a lot of community service projects we work on throughout the year. And you know a lot of those things from what you see with our Eagle Scout projects. The aim of Boy Scouts is really we want to grow our young men into leaders and have them get involved in community affairs, have them take on leadership roles within the troop and within the community, and build like self-reliance too with all the skills that they learn over time.
Right. And you guys we get elected, the town officials get invited to their Eagle Scout events. Tell the viewers, what is an Eagle Scout? Most of them may know, but I suspect a good portion do not.
So an Eagle Scout, that's the highest rank in scouting. It takes the scout years to advance to that. There are different advancement requirements along the way. What they have to do is they have to take on a leadership role within their troop, where they have to either run a small patrol of a bunch of guys, or they have to run the whole entire troop, or any other little leadership roles that we have within the troop. They also have to then earn merit badges, and merit badges are different skills or things like camping. They have to learn camp.
Which isn't easy. I've camped once or twice. I wasn't really good at it. And that's as an adult, not even as a kid.
So there's camping, cooking, learning cooking, planning, cooking for your troop, cooking for your family, which is a great requirement that the parents like to have. So it takes a little bit of burden of planning meals off of the mom and dad for.
Sure, mom and dad have to buy all the ingredients now.
Yeah. Then there's like personal management, which is personal finances, learning about how to balance your budget. So they have things like emergency preparedness, which we all put that to use a few years ago through Hurricane Sandy.
A few weeks ago, in my neighborhood, we had no power. We had in my house we lost gas, so it was quite a challenge.
So the scouts have to earn 21 of these different merit badges, which some are required, and then some of them are ones that they can pick on their own.
Right.
In areas that interest them. Something like a hobby or something like that, or a sailing merit badge, or canoeing or kayaking or something like that, robotics or whatever interests them. So they have to earn those, and then the big part of the Eagle project, or the Eagle rank, is the Eagle project, which is something that the scout has to plan a project that benefits the community. So it could be his church, could be his school, could be
the parks.
The parks.
They've been at Opatod, they've been at Michael J. Teague, they've been at Lake Topanimus, they've been at the schools.
Mm-hmm. So they have to take that from start to finish. So they have to plan it out, meet with the beneficiary, work out a project, work out the plan, make a budget, present it, or make a plan, present that to the troop committee. It gets presented to council, which is Monmouth Council, and they'll approve it, and then they have to work this project.
They gotta execute it.
Execute the project, and it's a pretty big undertaking for somebody who's 15, 16, 17 years old. Just having to make a phone call and plan things like, getting in touch with the town.
Well, and young
the
people
Parks
don't,
Department, yeah.
young people don't like to talk to anyone. They like to text.
Yeah.
My son does it to me all the time, and I'm like, you can call. Nobody calls now, Dad.
No.
We text.
No, and then you have to get in front of them, and you have to present it, and then get approvals. A lot of interaction with adults. They find out a lot about what's going on in politics with how things have to get approved. And
Well, yeah, sometimes you need building permits. You have to make sure that the project doesn't encroach. I know there was a project several years ago at Michael J.T. Park where one of the young men cleaned the trails and added exercise activity.
That was one of our scouts.
Right. So you got to make sure you're not killing off the trees or doing it. It's in that case it's Parks and Rec for Freehold Township. God forbid you have to get involved with the DEP or any of that stuff. Then it never happened. So and every project that I have seen presented or seen live has always been fantastic.
Yeah, so for the folks at home, and you're driving around and you want to see some things that the scouts have done in our area, there's plenty of them, and the one that you talked about is at Michael J.T. Park. It's the running trail, and there's all the exercise equipment that was done.
And the tables that were put out at Opatat by
Opatat, all those. There was no tables that were outside of the snack bar.
Yeah.
And one of our scouts who played Pop Warner football for years, he put together a plan to build these tables and put them out there because he knew that the families like to come and sit down and enjoy, but there was no place to sit down around there. So that was a big undertaking and a lot of money too.
They have to raise
all the money.
Yep.
So they raise it through garage sales and car washes and other fundraisers, and sell a lot of candy or outside.
Well, my very first Eagle Scout as a member of the Township Committee was 6 years ago, and the young man, I don't know a lot about it, as I mentioned, and I show up at this event and I'm in a suit and tie, and all these parents are in suits and ties, and there's 60, 70 people, and the young man stood up and talked about him building a school in Guatemala in honor of his grandmother who was from Guatemala, and it was in an earthquake zone, so it had to be earthquake proof. He raised the money. Yeah. It was, and I walked out here as being in my first Eagle Scout event. I said, "Oh my God!" Okay, and then throughout the years, I've been to all of them, or most of them. I mean, we have a lot of things on our schedule. It's very rare that I miss any. I'm missing one. There's one Saturday.
One on Saturday?
I have to do a wedding. My cousin's getting married. I'm the celebrant. I have to marry her. Anthony will be at the Eagle Scout event. But I look forward to them because it just amazes me some of the things they've accomplished. In addition, like you said, 21 badges they have to get. They get extra badges along the way of the things that interest them. So they show up and they have this with all their badges. It's very impressive. But then you hear that they spent 6 months doing this project, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And go to school, and do other things, some work.
Yeah. They balance everything between work, school, sports. Our scouts are involved in everything, band, and you just them to find the time. It's great. That they still want to come out and be involved, and they're giving back to the community on the weekends. How many times we have different projects going on with our Eagle projects. We have also adopted Winfield Park, and we clean that. Yeah, our troop cleans that up 3 times a year. The Eagle ceremony this weekend his project was building the Gaga pit at Winfield Park.
Okay.
So and you drive around, you can see things. We've done things with the Historical Society. So over at Oakley Farm,
Farms, they always
prominent things,
yes.
right? The flagpole that's sitting there was one of our scouts. The gazebo
was the flagpole Lake Topanimus your scout too?
That was not. That was, I believe, that was Troop 18's.
Okay.
But we have done Lake Topanimus. We've done a board over there, the kiosk that's over there.
Okay.
Plenty of things over at Battlefield State Park. As you drive along 522 and you see the fence line that's there.
Oh yeah.
That was rebuilt by our scouts.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah. Plenty of picnic benches have been built all over in Winfield Park and in Battlefield State Park and over at Liberty Oak, or I'm dating myself. Michael J.T. Park.
And what's interesting is, if you aren't watching this, and you don't know this, which is fine, at some point you may watch it, we'll go to the parks, and you might look and say, I wonder if a Boy Scout did that, you know, and because quite honestly, it's great for the community, because, you know, there's not an endless amount of money to do everything, okay? Tables at Opetot would have came eventually, okay, but football and this young man didn't want to wait, and they went off and did it, and he gets all the skills, or a good number of skills he's going to need as he gets older, so it works out. Now, how long have you been involved?
I've been involved my whole life in scouting, but I've been the scoutmaster now for 10 years.
10 years,
I'm
okay.
going into my 10th year. Yeah.
Well, you have an older son that's out of high school now, right?
And two that just came in about a year ago.
Yeah, and they're in what, 5th or 6th grade?
They're in 6th grade.
So you've got a ways to go. So you could be the scoutmaster for another 6 years.
Yeah.
But you enjoy it?
I enjoy it a lot, and you can see when you attend and the Eagle ceremonies, and you can see how much I like it, to just seeing the boy come from the 10, 11-year-old that comes in that's afraid to kind of even speak in front of a group, to then 5, 6 years later he's up leading a whole group of 50 to 60 scouts on a weekend trip, or a week long at summer camp, and their confidence in that, their leadership, and then when you see them carry out these Eagle projects, and knowing all the hard work that they did to work up to that, it's
and
really,
I would
gratifying.
equate that experience to me. We're in wedding, where our kids are demographically, our age group, a lot of weddings now. We had 12 weddings last year, so I go to these weddings and I see children of my friends who I've watched grow up, get married. And I got to say, the feeling is probably similar, you know, because you've been with these young men for quite some time, and then they do the Eagle Scout. One of the aspects of the Eagle Scout ceremony that I enjoy is who the MC is going to be and how entertaining they're going to be. Jim Prezula,
Yeah, James.
he was one of the most entertaining, at least for me. He's a dry personality, and he did just, I think there was 3 different Eagle Scout events I was at, and he was the MC, and he was just I remember leaving home with my wife, I go, he is the funniest guy. It was as entertaining as watching TV.
Well, a lot of the scouts, when they get to that point, what they like to do is have one of their friends be their MCs for the ceremony, and you can see there's a lot of thought that goes into who's part of their ceremony. They have a lot of the guys that have been there all the way along the trail with them, so they like to celebrate with them.
And they give out that recognition to the ones who were very important to them, the mentor pins, and then others they just want to recognize, which I always found interesting. And you know, usually kids that are young men are 15, 16, 17, they're tough guys, you know, and they don't want to show any affection, and they seem to break through that barrier at the event, at least. I'm sure afterwards, but
they spend a lot of time together. I mean, these kids, they go out, they camp with each other. A lot of these guys that are active, they have over 100 nights of camping. It's quite a few nights over the course of 5, 6 years.
And not always in nice weather.
No.
I've heard the stories of the rain and the cold and everything else, and they persevere. That's good.
A lot of them done big high adventure activities too. They've gone backpacking out in New Mexico to Philmont Scout Reservation. They've gone down to Florida Sea Base, which is down in the Keys, where they spend a week on the boat. And
I've seen the photos. That looks, even I would like to do that.
That's the best one. That's a vacation, you know.
How long do they go out on the boat for?
It's a whole week.
Okay.
So you're out for a few days, you come back, you resupply, then you go back out for a few more days.
Oh, that's cool.
You go.
And you've done that?
I've done that twice.
Okay.
That's a lot of fun. And I get to, you know, with my younger ones, there'll be a few more years. My 2 sons, Sean and Danny, will be ready to go, and I'll be ready to go again.
Very good. If there's people, new residents in the area just moving in, how would they reach out to you if they want to their kids want to get back involved or involved in Scouts?
Well, for us, you can come see us anytime. We meet at West Freehold School on Wednesday nights, 7:30 to 9. We're there every week.
You got a web page?
We have a web page. And you can see us there. It's BSA Troop 155, Freehold. And then you can always email me too, and that's the same thing. BSA.
He doesn't get back to you as quick on the emails.
Troop 155. That's busy. It's that hour of scouting that I give a week.
You know, and it's really not an hour because I'm sure you have to plan ahead of time. And
Well, the Boy Scouting, the boys do a lot of the planning, which is great. And that's the
yeah,
thing.
but
They-
in terms of the dialogues at the meeting or whatever discussed is all done by the scouts
the
themselves.
scouts do it.
Okay.
So tomorrow night is our monthly meeting for them to plan the next month. So we get together, the small group of the senior leaders, and they'll plan out the next 4 weeks of meetings and the next camp out.
Oh, that's
Now,
good.
We plan the calendar gets set a year in advance, but as we get closer to the events, then they actually plan out all the activities for that
So
weekend.
you're more of a
I'm there to help.
yeah,
Facilitate things.
facilitate, consult. You know, we're not going to go there. It's
Yeah.
not, you know, okay.
The safety.
Yeah. Are you the scouts or is this troop the one that walks in from what's the park out off of 524? It's 524, 522. You know there's Quail Ridge out
Quail
there.
Hill.
Okay.
Quail Hill.
There's a group of scouts that have been walking from there into town.
We do that.
That's you guys,
Yeah,
right?
We've done it everywhere. Yeah, there's a trail that takes you from there, from Quail Hill, which is our council's camp, and it takes you right into the, you ultimately land at the courthouse.
And how long a walk is that?
That's about 12 to 13 miles, something like that.
And how long does it take
Yeah.
the group to do that?
A whole long time.
'Cause
There's a lot of stops.
Well, I haven't been around the town forever. I can always remember driving in on a weekend, driving through whatever, even walking through, and seeing that pack. And there's
Yep.
usually a leader like yourself with a stick in his hand, a big stick, leading the pack. And usually when I saw them, they're in town, so they're at the end of the 12, 13 miles. So they're a little bit fatigued. But
Yeah,
they got their
it's-
packs on and
Yeah, it's a long thing. It teaches you a little bit of the history of this area. You know, like you stop at the park, the Battlefield State Park. You stop at Old Tenant Church.
right. I did a
Craig
report in high
House.
school in 1976 on that church. Took pictures of the blood on from the
Yeah.
Civil War. I took the blood on the pew there, and I actually got an A in that paper. I remember that. Don't remember a lot of high school, but I do remember that.
I remember that always as a kid, and I remember that. And then when we did it, the first time, we walked in, and the pastor was there, and I said, "We have blood on the pew, right?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and the boys loved it. I mean, they were eating that up. Wow, that's true.
Yeah, it's amazing the young people today, what intrigues them.
Mhm.
I had a meeting in the city, I work in the city, and we had a meeting with some underprivileged people. They were all teenagers, 14, 15, 16. So in a prior job, I was part of a team that built the first GPS satellite, right? So we're talking about things, and I told them that, and you would think I was telling them I was God. They were so amazed. You were really involved in that? Did you know this? I said, no, we just built the electronics. But, and then we did, we bought a Iraqi vet to Applegate, and he had a robotic leg. He had lost a leg to an IED, and he was at Applegate, and the kids were on the floor. And they were just staring at his leg, because it moved like a robot.
Mhm.
So, we get to the Q&A section, and the little kids all raise their hand, and they go, "Is that a robot?" And they were just consumed with his leg. And but it captured him. His whole story fell on deaf ears. All they want to know about was his leg and his robotic leg. So yeah, the young people get fascinated by things, and it's good. It's good, very good. So what else is going on? What's going on with Scouts this year? Anything different or just status?
Well, for us, we just came off of another weekend trip. Last weekend we were up at Stoke State Forest. Did a 5.5 mile hike up to the top of Sunrise Mountain.
So it's on an incline.
1,000-foot incline. So yeah.
I walked the
Good
golf
workout.
course Saturday. I was exhausted. I said I need a nap. 5 miles. Oh my
5
God.
miles, yeah. They did well. I mean, for some of them, I mean, it was the first time they ever walked that distance at all, or to that elevation. And you're up there at the top of Sunrise Mountain. You can see Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and pretty amazing.
I've camped out there once or twice over the years, but many moons ago. How many Eagle Scouts has Troop 155
We
put
have
out?
124 right now, and since we've been around since 1955.
And I was telling Kevin prior to us kicking off today that I look at the list every time I go to an event because it's on the back of the program, and he bought the list today, and I know at least a dozen people from back in the day, friends of mine or people I grew up with that I never knew were even in Scouts, let alone be an Eagle Scout. So that was quite impressive. And you know, you glance at the list, a couple of them are firemen. You know, Wayne Procknow's on here. He's a fire chief over here at Independence.
Family is still involved with this troop?
Absolutely. And then there's Charles Phillips on here. When I grew up with him, his name was Chipper. And I'm friends on Facebook. He lives down in Toms River, but he's a teacher at Toms River High School, one of them. And it's an impressive list, and it's an impressive accomplishment.
Yeah. It's I've only been the Scoutmaster since 2009, but those guys those first Eagle Scouts are now in the professional world, and they're out there, they're working.
Yeah,
and it's making me feel a little old now.
Well, yeah, there's people that graduated or were Eagle Scouts in years I was still in, let's see, 5th grade. So they are probably in some cases grandparents at this point in time. So that's good. And you've only been in 10 years, so you've been in it since yeah. It looks like the number of well, 2010. Were you there in 2000? That was a big year. I'm just looking at this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 Eagle Scouts in 1 year.
Yeah, there's a few big years where we have like between 8 and 10, and then there's a few years where with 1 or 2. But we're every year since 2000, and I believe it's like 7 or 8. We've had an Eagle Scout ever since then.
Yeah, it's we as I mentioned, we go to these events, but we go to yours and others. Troop 18, but you are definitely the one. When I get the invite in the mail or in the mail and email, it'll say Troop 155, and I'll say, wow, they're at it again. So you know, that's hats off. I know the Scouts do it, and their parents are actively involved, but the Scoutmaster is the model or the leader. So
I don't do it alone. I have a.
Oh, no,
you see, like when you come, I have a lot of assistant Scoutmasters that help me out along the way. They take a lot of pressure off of me, and we have a great troop committee. Every family in our troop takes some active role.
I see that, because they give the mentor pins to people that, you know, this mom or this dad, and you know, they help them. I remember one of them, the young man thanked so-and-so because she drove him to all the meetings because his mom worked, okay, and they couldn't get him there, and he thanked her specifically that she drove him for like 3 years. So that's important. That's very helpful. So it's a community. I always say the nice thing about Freehold Township, and I've said it publicly many times, is our volunteers. You'll hear about the coaches, coaches in all the sports. Scouts is mentioned. We have our charitable organizations. We've got a variety of charities. You guys do a lot of charitable work. So it's just part of the whole fabric of the community that people show up. I was at a Katina Ladies Night event. We were there last Thursday. 400 moms from the Katina school showed up to raise money for the school. I was impressed. There was even a couple dads, okay? And that's just another example. You know, we have, you go to the Eagle Scout event, as I mentioned, there's 100 people, 60 to 100 people show up there, all from the community, all to support the Eagle Scout honoree. And it's a wonderful aspect of Freehold Township.
Man, it is great. And the family atmosphere that's there, and like how everybody comes out and helps everybody. It's wonderful. And you know, whatever project we do, you can see like all the families come out and support it.
It's very admirable. I'm always amazed. Anything else you want to share with the audience tonight? While you've got the camera, it's all yours.
So if anyone's involved, and it doesn't even have to be Boy Scouts. Can't forget about our Cub Scout pack. So if you're in kindergarten, 1st grade, up to 5th grade, you can always join Pack 158 or 155. There's also Pack 158 in Freehold Township. There's Pack 160 and Pack 358. So we have a pack at every elementary school. The only elementary school that doesn't have one is Lord Donovan, and they'll all go over to Pack 155.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't work on this, you know, we're on this side of the town. The other side of town, Freehold Township, is Troop 18. They meet in St. Rose, but there's also a great, you know, troop over there too. about the same size as our troop.
How many total members of all the troops in this area do you think there are roughly?
We're somewhere over 100. We just lost 2 of our longtime troops that folded in the last couple of years, Troop 358 and Troop 160.
Okay.
But you know, our Troop 155 and Troop 18 are relatively large troops when you look at troops around in the communities. So there's roughly over 100 scouts just in Freehold Township alone.
Fantastic.
And then I'm not sure what it is with the Cub Scouts, but there's
Well,
more Cub Scouts than there are Boy Scouts.
Yeah, we were at a Cub Scout event, their crossing over event. They have it every, I want to say
Every February, yeah.
February, January. I knew it was cold. And there was a decent number of Cub Scouts there, and there was a decent number of Cub Scouts crossing over. And do most of them become Boy Scouts, or a high
probably half, somewhere around there. You know,
All
you know, it becomes a little bit more difficult. You know, we're going the sports route.
Right.
It's like sometimes it becomes a choice of they only have limited time, so what they choose and move on to is a little. That's where sometimes Boy Scouts loses out, but we're very flexible. If you want to come join us and you play a varsity sport or something like that,
You'll work with the schedule.
we'll work with it, you know, because they have commitments to CCD.
There's CCD, there's high school sports, there's high school clubs, there's a job.
plays,
Some people have
there's
jobs.
Yeah, we'll cater to everything, you know. As long as they get something out of scouting, that's great. I mean, the door's open for you, and you know, same thing with Cub Scouts. You know, it's a get in there. You are competing with sports and stuff like that, but you know, it gives you a taste of it, and then you can
Well,
see
you
what.
said it's an
what there is.
hour, you know, an hour a week, right? So
Yeah, with Cub Scouts, you have a weekly meeting, and then they don't have a monthly outing. They usually
Right.
have every few months they'll have a big outing, and then you have like the Pinewood Derby, and they host that over at every year now at Home Depot. So you go walking in on Home Depot on a January Saturday.
They do
They do it inside.
Okay.
Inside, and they race it right down.
Oh, that's
there.
cool.
So
And I'm in
all-
Home Depot a lot. I've never seen
and
that.
all those guys that did it as kids come in there and get excited and go, hey, I remember when I raced that car, you know, and hopefully they sign their sons up and join. You know, so scouting is a great opportunity. It's I asked my sons before I left, what do you really like about it? And they said they love the outings, the camp outs, the trips, but they especially like being out there with their friends,
Right.
and spending time with their friends, and that's what really keeps them in.
Excellent.
So,
All right, well, listen, on behalf of Mayor Amiano, committee people, Barbara McMorrow, Dave Salk, and Lester Preston, we thank you for your service.
I do
your
have
vo-
something for you guys.
Your,
I did
your
wanna-
volunteerism, and ask everyone if they have kids that want to get in Scouts, get in Scouts. Let's see what you have.
I have.
Oh, don't
for
mess
you
up my
guys.
hair.
I do have.
Oh,
for
these-
each of you. I know you come out a lot, so I wanted to give you guys
Well, that's very nice. Thank you very much.
I know Barbara really wants her shirt, so here is our Troop 155 shirt and hat. There's our Troop 155 shirt and
What's on the back? Oh, very nice. That's
CLV, which is
I'm
155.
I'm
yes.
good at Roman numerals
So-
1 to 20. After that,
Yeah.
it gets tricky.
So when you're driving around and you may even see the magnets on the back of
I've
a couple
seen
people's
them. Yeah,
cars.
I've seen them.
That's a Troop 155 person.
Well,
So
thank you very
that's
much.
for your whole
Well, we have a
community there.
meeting tonight, and I
And you
will
can
make sure everyone
present
gets
that to
one
them.
and tell them, and
And-
they'll see this in a week or so when it's on TV.
Okay.
But again,
I
thank
appreciate
you very
your time and thank you guys for all your support for our scouting
No
program.
problem. It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
As I said, I find it enjoyable and educational, and it usually always revolves around a project that the town needed anyway, and it works out.
Scouts really love it when you guys come and you have your proclamation and you tell them that the next day is their day.
Oh yeah, but
Freehold Township.
we always have to tell them you still have to go to school, and they kind of get a little frown. But thank you again.
Okay, thank you.